Hey guys, what's going on? It's MassiveJoes RAW review, and I'm coming to you from MassiveJoes.com. Awesome! Raw review for the viewers at home today on an all new Thermogenic fat burning supplement from our good friends at Olympus Labs. It is, of course, Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d in the house. Let's get straight into it, show you guys exactly what's in it, tell you exactly what it's going to do. That nutritional information panel ain't gonna get it done. We're about to go balls deep in this here Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d. Luckily got ourselves a big ass nutritional information panel for the viewers at home. Dilip, go ahead and cut up that panel on the screen so the viewers have a nice stable copy they can look at. Starting from the top, we've got the serving size, 2 scoops, 4.11 grams. Got yourself about 45 of them 2 scoop, 1 serving bitches in one of these 45 serve Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d bitches. That means it's 90 scoops. So a serve, what we're about to go through is this nutritional information panel with the dosages, is 2 scoops. 2 scoop serve, 90 scoops or 45 serves in a tub. In terms of what the 2 scoop 4.11 gram serve is made up of, as Olympus Labs always do, full disclosure, well, pretty close to full disclosure on their nutritional panel, so we can go through, do a quick summation, add up all of the active ingredients, see that we have 2.15 grams of actives in a 4.11 gram scoop, which means we're dealing with 52% active ingredients and 48% flavors, sweeteners, and colors. It is possibly the highest percentage of flavors, sweeteners, and colors that we have seen in a thermogenic fat burning supplement. That being said, 48% of 4.11 grams is like 2 grams. It's not a whole lot as an absolute number. It is just a very high percentage. Let's get into these active ingredients. Starting from the top, we've got two matrices here. We've got the maximum lipolysis activating matrix, and we've got the extreme energy focus and thermogenic matrix. So we're going to start with the lipolysis activating matrix, which contains 5 different ingredients. Starting from the top, we've got green coffee extract in a 1 gram or a 1,000 milligram dose. That is the coffee Arabica bean, of course, and it has been standardized to 50% chlorogenic acids, which is the whole purpose of having green coffee beans anyway. 50% chlorogenic acids means that in that 1,000 milligram dose, we're getting a whopping 500 milligrams of chlorogenic acid. For viewers who are unaware, chlorogenic acid reduces the release of glucose into the bloodstream, therefore regulates blood sugar, stabilizes insulin release, and also suppresses appetite. The efficacious dose of chlorogenic acid yielding from the green coffee bean extract is like 50 to 100 milligrams. Olympus Labs have gone and thrown 500 milligrams in this Bloodshr3d. They have gone more than 5 times the upper range of the efficacious dosing of chlorogenic acid. It's really quite ridiculous that they've put that much. I've written in my notes a ridiculous dose, because it is a ridiculous dose, but a very cool ingredient, a very effective ingredient for stabilizing insulin levels. Obviously, if you can stabilize insulin levels, it's going to assist in fat loss in the long term as well, because you're going to get better insulin sensitivity as a side note to stabilizing those insulin levels during the day. Moving right along, we then get into the second ingredient in the maximum lipolysis activating matrix, Sophora japonica, which is a flower bud extract, which has been standardized to 95% rutin. So we've got 400 milligrams of the extract, 95% of that is rutin. Rutin is a citrus flavonoid. It's used quite a fair bit in traditional Chinese medicine. What it does primarily is increases your AMP-K activity, or increases AMP-K activation. And what AMP-K is primarily responsible for is stimulating glucose uptake and also stimulating fat oxidation. So AMP-K is really important when you start to consider how your body uses carbohydrates or uses glucose from the foods that you eat. So if we can stimulate and upregulate and increase the activation of the AMP-K pathway, it means our body is using glucose from the carbohydrates that we eat and sending it into muscle cells so that it can be used, rather than it floating around in our bloodstream and having the possibility of being transformed into triglycerides and stored as body fat. The other thing AMP-K does is increases fat oxidation. So we're making sure the carbs we're eating are being used for energy, not being stored as body fat. And on the other side of things, we're making sure that the body fat we have is being oxidized and used for energy. Moving right along, we then have, actually I'm just gonna back up a second. With the Sophorica japonica, the rutin, there is no real clinical or efficacious dose that I could find for rutin. So we don't really know how much of it we need to be getting for it to be effective. Olympus Labs have put 400 milligrams of the Sophora in here at the 95% rutin standardization. So it is a significant, just under 400 milligrams of rutin, but we don't really know how much rutin is required to be effective. Moving right along, we've then of course got caffeine, 250 milligrams of caffeine, the central nervous system stimulant. Obviously the reason why caffeine is in this here Bloodshr3d is because it upregulates and boosts your metabolic rate, increases your total daily energy expenditure. Caffeine dosage, 250 milligrams. That's a nice dose. It's a nice dose of caffeine, especially for a thermogenic. You don't, well, me personally, I hate going anything over 300 milligrams of caffeine in a single dose, but you want to keep in mind with thermogenics in particular, especially if you're the sort of person that has a fat burner, something like Bloodshr3d in the morning before cardio, and then you have your pre-workout at night before you train, or you're mixing a lot of different stimulants throughout the day, you want to keep tabs on your overall daily caffeine intake. So to see a nice dose of 250 milligrams of caffeine in the 2-scoop serve of this Bloodshr3d is going to have that nice thermogenic metabolic boosting effect, but it's not too much caffeine that it's going to start affecting what you can and can't take stimulant wise throughout the rest of the day. Moving right along, we then get into Rhodiola rosea extract, a 100 milligram dose of Rhodiola rosea. Rhodiola, of course, is an adaptogenic herb. It decreases fatigue and increases your body's ability to adapt to stress, which is going to be specifically important, particularly important when you're in caloric deficit, which I know you will be if you're even considering taking a thermogenic such as Bloodshr3d, because your body's going to be under a lot of stress. You're going to be putting it under a lot of stress. So anything you can do from an adaptogenic herb perspective to reduce that stress, or not necessarily reduce the stress, but improve your body's ability to deal with that stress, is going to make you just feel better throughout the day. The thing with Rhodiola is its dosage, its effective dosage follows a bell-shaped curve. So if you don't take enough of it, you get a little bit of benefit, but then you need to take more of it until you get to the peak dosage. And then if you take too much of it, the effects actually start to drop back down. So we say it's a bell-shaped curve. That peak up here, that kind of like ideal dose, I guess, for Rhodiola, from what I've read, is between 600 to 700 milligrams per day. What we're dealing with this Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d is a 100 milligram dose. So no matter how you cut it, it's definitely nowhere near that peak dosage for the maximum adaptogenic effects of Rhodiola. So it is significantly underdosed in this here Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d. Moving right along, we then have a very interesting ingredient that I actually haven't seen used in any supplement before. I've seen it used in flavoring a lot, but no supplements. Vanillin in a 100 milligram dose. Now, vanillin is a phenolic aldehyde that has the ability to firstly reduce blood cholesterol levels. So that's a good thing when you're trying to lose body fat. But more importantly for us, it's a TRPV1 agonist. Now what this means is that it's got the ability to increase your metabolic rate and also induce lipolysis at the same damn time. Also, vanillin is an antioxidant that has been shown in a bunch of studies, as a matter of fact, to work as a pretty potent anti-inflammatory as well. The 100 milligram dose of vanillin, very similar to the rutin, is we don't actually have good evidence that suggests what the dosage has to be or what the most effective or efficacious or clinical dose of vanillin is. So we can't really comment on the 100 milligram dose per 2 scoops or per serve in this here Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d. We do just know that it is in there, and it does have some pretty good science behind it from a fat loss perspective, a metabolic rate increasing perspective. Moving right along, we then get into the extreme energy focus and Thermogenic Matrix. We've actually already seen part of the Thermogenic Matrix already with the caffeine in there. But we're gonna start this one off. Now this is where Olympus Labs go kind of like half proprietary, because they tell us that the matrix itself is 300 milligrams, and that 300 milligrams is made up of a combination of Area Durensis and J. regia, or Juglans regia extract. We don't know the split between the two, but it's pretty safe to say that they've split it 50-50. And you'll see why it's pretty safe to say that in a second when we start going through the clinical doses. So we're going to assume that it's 150 milligrams Area Durensis, 150 milligrams Juglans regia. So let's start with the Area Durensis in what we're assuming 150 milligram dose. Area Durensis yields N-phenylethyl dimethylamine, which increases dopamine and noradrenaline, is going to elevate your mood and your feeling of well-being primarily, also going to suppress appetite. Also works as a bronchodilator, which is going to decrease the resistance in your respiratory airways and increase airflow to your lungs. So some pretty cool effects there of the Area Durensis. By far the most reported pronounced effective area is due to the dopamine and the noradrenaline, is the increased feeling of well-being, the elevated mood. Sure, it does suppress appetite and has a bronchodilating effect, but the primary purpose for wanting to put Area Durensis in a supplement is to increase mood and increase your feeling of well-being. Moving right along, we then move towards J. regia, Juglans regia extract. We have seen this before from Olympus Labs in their Conquer Unleashed pre-workout. They use it in that as well. AKA walnut bark extract. It yields the natural version of DMHA, which is 2-amino-5-methylheptane, not to be confused with the synthetic version, 2-amino-6-methylheptane. The natural version coming from Juglans regia is actually more potent than the synthetic version. It's a psychoactive central nervous system stimulant. It's going to do a bunch of shit. Boost energy, enhance cognitive function, decrease appetite. It's a bronchodilator similar to Area Durensis, so decrease resistance in your respiratory airways, allow more airflow to get to your lungs. It's like supercharging your respiratory system to help get more oxygen in and burn that fat off. Also going to increase dopamine and noradrenaline, similar to Area Durensis. So it's also going to have that elevated mood, that elevated feeling of well-being. Now, in terms of dosages of these two ingredients, of the Area Durensis and the Juglans regia, we do have a slight issue here with Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d, because we don't know the standardization. And because these are natural extracts that yield, Area Durensis yields the N-phenyl dimethylamine, Juglans regia yields the natural version of DMHA, we really need to know the standardization. We don't know the standardization. What we do know is that the efficacious dose of N-phenylethyl dimethylamine is anywhere from 125 to 150 milligrams of that ingredient. We know, well, we're assuming that the amount of area is 150 milligrams, so it's gonna be pretty damn close to that efficacious dose. So far as the Juglans regia with the naturally occurring DMHA, we know that the efficacious dose of the naturally occurring DMHA is 50 to 75 milligrams. Once again, we're assuming that the amount of the Juglans regia extract is 150 milligrams. So chances are it's actually going to be even over that efficacious dose of the naturally occurring DMHA. But without knowing standardizations and making assumptions on how that 300 milligrams of this matrix is split, we're not 100% sure. So I'm just gonna have to tell you guys how it feels in a second. Got yourself some artificial colors, artificial flavors. Almost 50% of them. And that's what's in it. So, very unique thermogenic supplement we're dealing with here, viewers at home. Very unique. You've got ingredients in there to stabilize insulin. You've got ingredients in there to work with stabilizing insulin, but to get your body to use carbs more effectively. You've got ingredients in there that are going to induce lipolysis and help with fat oxidation. You've got a couple of ingredients in there that are going to work as very potent appetite suppressants. You've got multiple ingredients that are going to work as thermogenics and boost your metabolic rate. You've got an adaptogenic herb to help your body deal with the stress of being in caloric deficit and the stress of actually losing body fat. Very interesting on paper thermogenic supplement. If you're gonna compare it to, you know, the sorts of things that we generally like to see in thermogenic fat burners, it is missing a couple of things. The first thing, the biggest obvious thing that it's missing is a fat metabolizer. There's no carnitine or acetyl L-carnitine or L-carnitine L-tartrate, some sort of salt of carnitine in there to help your body actually transport stored body fat from fat cells into mitochondria of cells where that fat can be used as energy. That's the first thing it's missing. It's also missing a potent fat blocker, so to speak, something like a hydroxycitric acid. It doesn't have anything like that in there. It also doesn't have anything like a forskolin or a theobromine, something that's going to widen blood vessels, increase the power of your heartbeat, and therefore boost metabolic rate in that regard, even though it does have ingredients that through a different mechanism boost metabolic rate. And then finally, it doesn't have essential fatty acids. Your conjugated linoleic acid doesn't have that in there either. That being said, all those things that it's missing that we generally look for in thermogenic fat burning supplements, it does have a lot of stuff that we've never seen before in thermogenic fat burning supplements. Vanillin is probably the big one that stands out. So just on paper, it's one of those supplements that you go, I actually wouldn't mind trying that just because it's so damn different. In terms of how it tastes, how it mixes, comes in 3 flavors. Comes in grape bubblegum. Comes in Hawaiian colada. Comes in orange. There it is. Boom. Star Crush. My personal favorite, you guys know I don't get down with citrus, so orange Star Crush is out of the mix for me. Hawaiian colada is just a weird sounding flavor, so I push that one to the side. So my personal tub, of course, is grape bubblegum. I'm a big fan of grape. So infamous MassiveJoes taste and mixability test about to go down. And I'm gonna do this one for you guys with a full dose. I'm gonna do 2 scoops. Got my personal tub of Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d in the grape bubblegum, AKA the grape drank flavor. Double wall glass with a spoon. I'm gonna take 2 scoops. Now, the one thing that I will mention to you guys is 2 scoops, 4.11 grams. So each scoop should be 2.055 grams. The scoops, if you take a level scoop, is gonna be a little bit less than that. It's about 1.9. So this is a supplement where you actually wanna go like a heaped scoop, and the scoops are tiny. So you have a look at that up against my hand. Zoom and focus action, please. So you can see the scoops are not big at all, but you wanna heap them. So you don't wanna go a level scoop like that. You wanna like heap that bitch up like that. And you wanna throw 2 of those in there. So I'm gonna take myself 2 heap scoops just like that. I'm just gonna drop it down in this glass out of frame for a second so I don't spill the shit everywhere. So I got my 2 scoops, boom, look at that, just sank to the bottom, of Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d. A few flicks of the wrist. I'm gonna show you guys how it mixes. Refresh my memory on how this Bloodshr3d tastes. Boom, there you go. So you guys can see, it's a bit, I probably should have used a different flavor so you can see because that color is really dark, but you can see it's pretty well mixed. There are some floaters in there and there are some sinkers towards the bottom. In fact, I'm just gonna mix it up a little bit more because the sinkers have just sunk right to the bottom, like the damn Titanic in this mother. All right, that's better. There you go. Pretty damn well mixed. I would go so far as to say blended ball is not required for this here Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d. Let me refresh my memory on how this great bubble gum tastes, man. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not great. And especially considering they've used almost 50% flavors, colors, sweeteners, and other things in there, they probably should have done a lot better with the flavor, to be completely honest. But it's not a bad flavor. The aftertaste does get you a little bit. The aftertaste is kind of like a, it's like a, let me refresh my memory again. It's kind of like a combination of like sour and bitter in the aftertaste, but it's not that bad to drink. It is one of those supplements where if you mix it with more water, it is a very strong flavor, a very almost overwhelming flavor. So if you can mix it with more water, it's just gonna dilute that flavor and make it more pleasant to drink. So I ideally, with 2 scoops, I'd probably go twice that amount of water. So I'd be going like 500 milliliters of water rather than 250 for 2 scoops. But if you dilute it and you get that concentration quite right, I mean, it's not great, but it is quite a pleasant flavor. In terms of ranking the flavors, for me personally, the grape bubblegum is by far the best flavor, in my personal opinion. The orange Star Crush, even though I don't get down with citrus, the orange Star Crush is actually quite a nice, it's almost like a weak orange cordial type flavor. It's actually not bad. The Hawaiian Colada, for me personally, was a very strange flavor. It's kind of like a pina colada, but it's got like a tropical juice taste to it. So it's not like just pineapple and coconut. It's got like hints of mango and shit in there. It's strange. It's different. Let's put it that way. So if you like different flavors, you'll probably get down with the Hawaiian Colada. But across the board, definitely one of those supplements that you do need to mix with a little bit more water because the flavors are quite strong. But generally speaking, quite a pleasant tasting supplement in terms of the effects. Because that's what you're taking the shit for. And we know on paper that this is quite a unique supplement. And we know on paper that a couple of the ingredients, we don't even know what the clinical or effective dose is. So we can't even comment on paper on whether or not it's properly dosed. So you guys are really relying on me to tell you what the effects are. And you're really putting your trust in me to tell you exactly what we've experienced. So we've been using this for a while now at MassiveJoes. And I'm gonna comment on the consensus, what we've all experienced, not just my personal. I'll tell you when I'm telling you about my personal experience, but I'm gonna tell you what the unanimous feedback has been regarding the effects of this Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d. So the first bit of unanimous feedback is that the feeling of well-being, so the feeling of like elevated mood of happiness, is something that we have never experienced before. It's like next level shit. In fact, I remember the first time that I took Bloodshr3d, I took 2 scoops for the first time, had seen it on paper, didn't really know what to expect, took 2 scoops, before cardio, before I hopped on the Devil's Staircase first thing in the morning. And viewers at home who are aware would know that doing Devil's Staircase in the morning is not my most favorite thing to do. Took 2 scoops of the Bloodshr3d, drank that shit. About 10 minutes later, I was like, I cannot wait to hop on the Devil's Staircase and climb them mother stairs. It was just like an overwhelming, almost euphoric type feeling the first time I took Bloodshr3d, and I've had that every single time I've took it. And that's definitely the overwhelming unanimous feedback that all of us at MassiveJoes who have taken this product have experienced, is just that overwhelming elevated mood, almost euphoric type effect, which has to be the combination of the Arrhea-Durensis and the Juglans Regia. That's really all we can put it down to. It really is quite phenomenal. The thermogenic effect is also quite pronounced. It's not the sort of supplement where if you drink it and you don't do anything, you start sweating profusely. It doesn't have that effect. But if you take it before cardio and you're doing your cardio, you do definitely sweat and have a much more pronounced thermogenic effect than you otherwise would if you weren't taking the Bloodshr3d. The third bit of unanimous feedback that we've all experienced is that the appetite suppression effect is really very pronounced as well. It's almost to the point where you forget to eat. If you don't remind yourself to eat, 4, 5, 6 hours will go past and you're like, shit, I actually forgot to eat. And you don't feel hungry. So the appetite suppression effect is definitely probably one of the better appetite suppressing fat burning supplements that we have used at MassiveJoes. Definitely one of the strongest that I have personally used. Of course, when we talk about fat loss, because that's what this is a fat loss supplement, the most important thing, as you guys know, is caloric deficit. You need to be in a caloric deficit to even have any chance of losing body fat. If you are using Bloodshr3d in combination with the caloric deficit, is definitely gonna speed up the fat loss process for you with all of those active ingredients. But the big thing you're gonna get out of it, for those of you that have dieted before and been deep into a diet, and just experience the overwhelming feeling of shit that you go through when you're dieting, you just feel like crap. That's where Bloodshr3d really comes into its own right. It's just that overwhelming euphoric feeling, the elevation in mood. I've personally never experienced anything like it before. It is quite phenomenal. And to have that while you're dieting, while you're in caloric deficit, I think is definitely going to be beneficial from just a feeling perspective. And then of course you've got all of the benefits of accelerating the fat loss process as well. In terms of side effects, this is something that I do need to mention. This is not unanimous. So this is something that only a couple of us have experienced, myself included. So this is something that I have experienced, is about, it seems to almost work like clockwork, about 4 to 4.5 hours after taking Bloodshr3d, I definitely experience a come down. It's not a crash. It's not like a crash that you get when you have too much caffeine or too many stimulants in like a pre-workout and then after your workout you crash. It's not that at all. It's definitely like a come down. Like you go from that overwhelming, euphoric, elevated mood, energy, happy, everything's fantastic, to I feel shit. Pretty much. And it has occurred to me pretty much consistently 4 to 4.5 hours after every time I've taken Bloodshr3d. And that's just my personal opinion. It's not unanimous, as I mentioned. There's only a few of us at MassiveJoes that have experienced that, but just something to keep an eye on is that 4 to 4.5 hour post-dosing come down from Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d is something that you do have to be aware of. In terms of stackability, I have already mentioned the things that it's missing. If you're serious about your fat loss goals and you're serious about using this Bloodshr3d to accelerate the fat loss process, you do really need to stack it with a fat metabolizer. Obviously, Creation Supplements Aquapure is the top pick, stacks really easily with it, not going to affect the taste too much. but it does really need to be stacked with a bare minimum needs to be stacked with Alka-Pure. And then finally, the last thing I'm going to say, guys, is the value for money. You're looking in the Australian market, $79.95 for 90 scoops. And just remember, you can start with 1 scoop. In fact, pushy cats generally may not even need to go more than 1 scoop to get the effect that they desire. You're looking at 88 cents per scoop. If you are doing the 2 scoop serve, it's $79.95 for 45 serves. You're looking at $1.76 per serve. It is one of the best priced thermogenic fat loss supplements on the Australian market today. But guys, if you're in the market for a unique new take on thermogenic fat loss just something, if you've tried all of the fat loss supplements that you care to try and you're looking for something new, you're looking for something that's just going to give you the most pronounced euphoric feeling of well-being that we have seen thus far in in any supplement, plus get the benefits of accelerated fat loss, you really have to give yourself some of this Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d shot, guys. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, man. Stay up to date with all the latest editions of MassiveJoes RAW review and all the other deliciousness on our YouTube channel. If you're watching this on the mobile, don't forget to turn those post notifications on so you don't miss a beat when it comes to the MassiveJoes YouTube channel. And guys, that is MassiveJoes RAW review on the all new Olympus Labs Bloodshr3d in the house. And I'm coming to you from MassiveJoes.com. Stay massive.